I know. I know. Little late, little late. I know. All right, let's get the late points over with. Can everybody hear me okay? Hello, hello, hello. Testing, testing. Hello, hello. Fuck. Yeah, this is working. I know everybody. I know. I hear the people. 13 late points. 13. 13 late points. Someone says 12. Monkey with Stick says 12. I'd be, maybe we should listen to that guy. Maybe he knows what's up. All right, all right, all right. The late points are so high now. I don't know what the people. Do you guys want to here? First of all, incredible chapter. This chapter made me so happy. This chapter was this chapter was amazing. Hold on. Here, let's do things one at a time, right? Let's do things one at a time. You guys don't care about the chapter. You just want me to suffer with my late points. So fine. All right, let's do it. 198 is where we're at now. Almost 200 late points. It's kind of crazy. We've got. Do you want to vote? Do we want to vote on something? Do you want to vote on something? Let's get stream likes up to 50 real quick because this chapter was so fucking good. Let's get stream likes up to 50. Let's get stream likes up to 50. I miss Morgen's long hair aura. My hair's pretty long right now, honestly. It's frankly pretty long. Do you want to cash in late points? The problem is right now there's no clear thing that everybody wants to vote to make me do. There's no singular unifying penalty, It's not something that we can all get behind like that. You guys were all dicks to me when I had long hair. So I don't want to hear all this like, oh, long hair, Morjed aura. You guys were dicks. Every stream is like, Morj, what's going on with the hair? That's what it was every stream. I think you might be remembering like the 1 or 2 days that it looked good. Because that's why I kept it. I was like, I know that certain days, if the conditions are just right, it looks good. That's what I remember with the long hair aura. Or the long hair days, right? That's what you guys are referring to. I remember like at certain moments, I was like, I see why I'm doing this. I see what it's all about. But day to day, normally it was just absurd. It was ridiculous, Tiptir Treviso, thanks for the 2. Emu's shadow form seems to be made of Maki now. That's an interesting concept. That's a very interesting idea. I could see that being a thing. I mean, it's kind of similar to like what, Here's okay. I'll say this simple problem that Oda has in the series is, and it's a post time skip thing, which is he likes all of his special powers to be black, and it's like, listen, man, you can't make armament Haki, advanced armament Haki, conqueror's Haki, and now the fucking Yami no Mi, and now fucking Maki all black. And then on top of it, other things, right? Like let's say this shadow form or whatever, right? It's all we don't know. Because at first glance it's like, yeah, Emu just created like a little shadow snake thing here this chapter, right? Emu's shadow form. It's all, this black shadowy figure or whatever. But it's like, is it Maki or is it just Oda likes black coloring? Power Vision says, I get it, long hair problems. Yeah, you were rocking the long hair. I think you pulled it off better than I did. It was more consistent, I think. Yeah, my hair is, unfortunately, it's a little bit, well, I don't know about unfortunately. It is what it is. But it's curly. It's got the curls. So that's the curls don't naturally want to work with you. They fight you. They work against you. They're your enemy, ultimately. Yeah, continuing on. Okay, Little Dragon 1221, thanks for the 2. Damn, Gaban is cool and loving the Roger hype. Gaban was awesome this chapter, not just because of the what he actually displayed, which was phenomenal, but he had Emu going huff huff. Emu says huff huff this chapter. Um, and then, but on top of that, for me, my favorite part was him actually. Also, the moment where he was, I don't know what he was doing. Was he charging up his axe? Was he swinging his axe? But the moment where there was like crazy Conqueror's Haki lightning coming out of it and it cut the tree, I don't think we've seen something like that. So, Gaban, awesome. But even more so for that than that for me was the he laid down the law on Luffy. Like, he gave Luffy a talking to that was really, really, really long overdue, in my opinion. Little Dragon 1221, thanks to the 2. Weird to think that Kaido would end up like Luffy. Yeah, I mean, it's just what would happen. Bunfagum, thanks for the 7. I think Kaido would fare better than Luffy. I think Kaido's got a bit more. I think he would fare better than Luffy. He's got more battle experience and stuff like that. It's not like Luffy ran out of a time limit or anything here. It's just, I think everything Luffy, I think he would do better than Luffy. It would be marginal, right? At the end of the day, Imu's gonna low diff pretty much everyone. But, you know. Bunfagum, thanks for the 7. Gaban versus Rayleigh isn't even a discussion anymore. Zola fans dropped the Rayleigh parallels and are back to Rumor Man, Rima Glaze, Crazy Agenda chapter. I mean, if you want to argue old Gaban is stronger than old Rayleigh, I think that there's a solid argument for that. It's possible Gaban's just kept in better shape, because Rayleigh implies that he hasn't, what do you call? Really implies that he hasn't been, he hasn't used a sword in a long time, but even this chapter, Gaban kind of implies that he's just no, he says his bones are rusty. I don't know, it's if you want to argue old Gaban above old Rayleigh, I think that's like a totally fair argument. Taptio Treviso, thanks to the 2. No upload / streams until Wano analysis penalty. That's the insane penalty. I would never do that. JP, thanks to the 10. Last chapter, you said it'd be messed up if Gaban scolded Luffy in this state. It makes Gaban more interesting, but not sure if it fully hit for me. My boy Luffy trying not to die. I said that last chapter. I did say it'd be messed up. But this chapter, Luffy appeared to be somewhat more conscious and, like, awake than he seemed last chapter. Like, last chapter, he was, like, incoherent. He was basically, like, eyes whited out, couldn't talk. He said no words. It was just angry expressions. And then by the end of the chapter, he was, like, blubbering, like, don't kill me. Like, not blubbering like that, but he couldn't even form sentences or speak. This chapter, so last chapter kind of seemed like literally he's basically 1 foot in death's door, right? This chapter was kind of more, Oda toned down a little bit just how, Oda made it clear that Luffy's still extremely injured, he can't really fight or get back up or anything right now, but he's still coherent and can, you know, I think in this state, yeah, it's fair for Gaban to shit talk Luffy. Especially because Gaban's saving him, getting him out of trouble and stuff like that. In this state, yeah. If it was just Gaban, what it seemed like last chapter, I'm like, if it was just Gaban talking to a fucking corpse, that would be kind of crazy. But I think this is a fair. I think Luffy is healthy enough for Gaban to talk shit. I think he's healthy enough for Gaban to talk shit. Before it was like, I thought he was at 1% health. Now I view it at, like, yeah, he's in the 10 plus range. So yeah, you can hear some shit, you know? Zolden, thanks for the 10. You asked if we'd see more Roger. I've thought for a while that Shanks' flashback is where we will, with Roger as the parent figure of the flashback, and see how God Valley turned him from a carefree man into one on a mission. That is a great observation, Zolden. That would be the best context to see Roger in. Because right now, I'm not gonna lie, out of all of the old generation, Roger seems kind of like the lamest. Not the weakest, right? But just after seeing everybody, Whitebeard, Rayleigh, Gaban, Garp, everybody's just interested. They've got layers to them, right? Roger's like a bad onion. There's no layers, you know? It's just... And, I don't know. I think seeing some sort of character transformation. Also, the tricky thing is just God Valley Roger, the Rocks flashback Roger is just so different from Laugh Tale Roger, right? I think Laugh Tale Roger still seemed really cool, But now I think Rock's flashback Roger has sort of supplanted that image of Roger in most people, at least my head. So I think a Shanks flashback would go a long way to sort of bridging that transition from a very surface level one dimensional character to sort of a wiser figure that we see later on with more perspective and ambition and goals. I think that would be really cool. MitchCam28, that's a great idea, Zolden. That's a great place that it could go. MitchCam28, thanks for the 5. Emu, is this your chosen one? Gabon, we're working on it. That's a great way to put it. God damn it, Luffy, stop embarrassing me. That's actually a really funny way to put it. That's a really funny way to put it. Just want to give you guys the heads up. I am, if my voice sounds a little off right now, I am a little bit, frankly, I was pretty sick yesterday. I am doing better today after some Dayquil and some extra sleep and everything. But yeah. Yeah, let's get stream likes up to 50 real quick. Let's get stream likes up to 50. The question 89907 sent Corgi for 1,000 jewels. Thank you for the Corgi. Sam Sapling 8348, thanks for the 5. What's up, Morge? Longtime fan, but not a big chatter. Just moved into an apartment, starting my first real job. Thanks for all the videos and streams. Hey, congratulations, man. Those are some big steps. Those two things obviously usually go hand in hand. You get your first big job and then, or your first real job or whatever. Then you can move out, be in an apartment. That's when the stresses of life begin. Let me tell you, that's when life becomes. Thanks for all the videos and streams. Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming through and supporting. I don't want to put a downer. You're starting the fun phase of life, I'll say, but also it's the phase where now, you know, you get to learn what life's about, and life has a lot of ups and downs, I'd say. You get hit with bills you didn't even know about. Magnus9450, thanks for the 10. I find it funny that the only reason people have Zoro over Sanji is feats and portrayal, but no matter what Gabon does here, people will rank really higher due to vibes and silver, copper scaling. Is feats and portrayal. I mean, those are the two main things, right? Feats, portrayal, and how other characters view them, right? The Zoro Sanji situation. I think Gabon being above Rayleigh, or Rayleigh being above Gabon is not vibes. It's just, it's confirmed throughout the story that Rayleigh was the right hand of the king, right? I think if you want to argue Gabon is above old Gabon is above old Rayleigh based on feats, I think that that's like a fair argument. And again, I would say that, now I'm thinking back, even just the fact that, you know, Gabon's had big fights in recent memory, right? Like, just 14 years ago, he was fighting, you know, fucking Holy Knight Herald. And holy shit, low-key, Holy Knight Herald is a fucking monster the more you think about it, because we just got to see, like, that version of Gabon is stronger than this version of Gabon, right? That's even younger Gabon. And him plus Shanks, back when Shanks was, around the time that Shanks would have been dueling Mihawk or getting close to dueling Mihawk for World's Strongest Swordsman, the two of them together, plus all of Elbaf's strongest warriors, weren't able to do jack shit to Herald, which is insane. Like, Holy Knight Herald, low-key himself, is a threat comparable to Emu, you could argue. Kind of insane. I don't think that's weird to think about, just because a big part of Emu's powers is kind of the puppets and minions that he can create. And that's why he viewed, like, Rox and Herald as such promising puppets, because they're so, like, they're so unstoppable. But, Dami Rox, you know, Holy Knight Herald. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, I think old Gabon over old Rayleigh, I think that that's not a weird take. I don't want to overthink who's who or whatever. I think Gabon looks cooler doing that. I guess the way you could look at it is like, I don't know. You could look at it as basically like, here's how I kind of remember. The Rayleigh Kizaru duel is really the only time we get to see Rayleigh in action, right? At the time the Rayleigh Kizaru duel happened, I remember the perception was that, okay, Rayleigh is like right here, like almost Kizaru level, like it's like neck and neck, old Rayleigh and Kizaru. So you could say old Rayleigh basically still being Admiral level, right? I think as time went on, for whatever reason, people began to downplay that battle more and more, and basically the new, based off of nothing, and the new perspective became that Kizaru was way stronger than Rayleigh, but just wasn't trying to beat him or something like that. This I always thought was weird because it's not really based on anything. It was just, I think people just decided that old Rayleigh just can't be that strong. And so, for whatever reason, people recontextualize that fight. I think in light of this, it's fair to recontextualize that fight again and be like, no, I think we might have had it right the first time, which is that old Rayleigh and Kizaru is pretty much neck and neck. Rayleigh would probably eventually lose due to stamina, as he implies, but it's not like Kizaru is much above him, right? So if you take that and keep that in mind, and then you use that as a measuring stick, you're like, well, we saw Luffy versus Kizaru last arc. The problem is that Luffy versus Kizaru, that in itself is very controversial, so I don't know how we really go by that. You could argue that multiple ways, right? And then we saw Luffy versus Emu, and we saw Gaban versus Emu, right? So you have a lot of ways to compare the characters, right? You got a lot of ways to compare the characters, but it's a little messy because you've got arguments and contention about how each interaction played out, right? Because if you view it as Rayleigh and Kizaru were basically dead even, like a stalemate, as I think people initially took it, right? And then if your interpretation is that Kizaru actually could have beaten Luffy at Egghead, but just didn't, right? And then you take it as like, well, Luffy did worse against Emu than Gaban, but not by much or something, then all of that can basically equate out to, it's like a lot of tangential stuff, but all of that could still equate out to old Rayleigh being equal to, maybe above old Gaban, who knows. If you want to spin it the other way, be like, Rayleigh had no chance, Rayleigh was way out of his league against Kizaru, and then Luffy stomped Kizaru, and then Luffy got stomped by Emu, and then Gaban did better than Luffy against Emu. Well, if you take it that way, then old Gaban is above old Rayleigh. I don't think there's an argument for prime Gaban above prime Rayleigh, because that's just basically, the narrative doesn't say that. But if you want to compare old to old, then I think that's a fair argument. Prime Rayleigh. Oh wait. Let me go in order. Um. Hold on. Sam Sapling, thanks for the 5. What's up, Morge? Longtime fan, but not a big chatter. Just moved into an apartment. Oh no, we covered this. Covered this. Tip Tier Treviso, thanks for the 2. We seen Conqueror's Haki projection way more with Garp plus Shanks. We've seen Conqueror's Haki projection way more with Garp plus Shanks. Yeah, I think what Gaban did here feels unique because I think I need a better look at the panel. But I think what Gaban did here feels pretty unique because I think every other time we've seen Conqueror's Haki just straight up used as a long distance attack, right? So generally speaking, right, what we see with Advanced Conqueror's Haki is it does Gaban swing his axes here? He does swing his axes here. I'm going to sound like an idiot in the chapter review because I said the Conqueror's Haki happens when he's charging his axe, but that's actually not accurate. Okay, so Kamudo, he launches a bunch of Conqueror's Haki. Yeah, I guess it's the same as what Garp does. Garp does something similar, just different. I think where the controversy lies would be the Divine Departures, right? Shanks and Roger. I don't know. I think people are going to get very upset if we start. Yeah, it's just what Gaban does here looks different to me than what we've seen before. I don't think we've ever seen Conqueror's Haki use like a cutting tool like this long distance before. But you could argue it all falls in the same category. I don't know. To me, it looks visually unique from before, but maybe it's all the same thing. We'll probably get more clarification as time goes on, as these things go. Also, let's get stream likes up to 100 real quick. Robos, okay, thanks for the 2. So what's the cope for Loki being over the old gen? The cope for Loki being over the old gen? Are you saying like in Loki's favor? because I don't think that argument needs to be made, right? We already saw Loki versus we already saw this, right? Gabon and Shanks compared to Holy Knight Herald. Pre-Prime Shanks, fair. Gabon probably a little bit post-Prime. But we saw the two of them together, plus all of Elbaf's army against Holy Knight Herald. We know how that went. And then we saw Loki come in. He's actually capable of taking down Holy Knight Herald, right? Granted, Holy Knight Herald took a pause to let Loki do that, but Loki was actually beating his ass before then. And then on top of that, it was just, like, in terms of attack power, they couldn't put him down, but Loki could, right? So there's not really a debate there. I also feel like Loki versus Emu to me is on a totally different scale than Gabon versus Emu or Luffy versus Emu. Like, I think it's just not really comparable. Because Loki versus... I can't really... maybe I'll show panels next stream or something. I don't like showing panels on a stream where the chapter came out. But Loki versus Emu, like, they were actually clashing. Like, they were actually having crazy, huge, island-scale clashes. Which is, like, that felt like a battle between gods. In this fight, I think I kind of rate how hard Emu is trying based on how much Maki he uses. Because Maki is his, like, most powerful ability. And so him and Loki was, like, just crazy fireworks all over the island. Against Gabon, I think the only Maki ability he used was that snake ability or whatever. But, yeah, in straight, what do you call? In straight, like, power display or whatever, Loki versus Emu is just on a much higher level than I think what we got here with Gabon. I think comparing... And on top of that, Loki's very injured. So it's not really even there's nothing to really compare there. But I think if you want to argue Gabon doing better than Luffy, I don't think is a strange take. Harold was only winning because of regen. That's like a silly argument because characters kind of just tank. I mean, but he has the regen, so that's part of it. And part of the problem was that they can't put him down, right? Because of his regen. And it was implied that it's because of his regen and his Conqueror's Haki. That's what Gabon says. He's like, normally God's Knights, it's easy to do this, but Harold has both regen and Conqueror's Haki, so it's not working, right? So we don't really know how the regen and the Conqueror's Haki work together, but like Gabon himself makes it clear that we can't do anything to Harold, right? On top of this, characters with regen generally just take attacks because they can, right? That's not really that's kind of a silly argument because it's like he has the regen. That doesn't if the attacks don't do anything to him, there's not really like by that logic, Harold, like countless giants from Elbaf were landing hits on Harold. If he wanted to, that wouldn't have happened, you know? Unless you think Gabon's above Harold, which is kind of insane. David E, thanks for the 2. Any change of end of story Sanji / Zoro scaling for you? Fuck no. Like, this is, for me, this is, like, more encouraging for how I view Zoro and Sanji end of story. I've said before on stream, you guys can look at my previous top 30s, right? This helps me put Gabon, like, Prime Gabon, like, basically where I kind of put Prime Rayleigh, so I think that they're basically neck and neck. Well, I guess it's hard to scale them in their primes or whatever, but I don't know. But I've said before, in streams, you can see my previous all-time top 30s. Rayleigh and Gabon, I think, are above Kaido and Big Mom. I think they're above Kaido and Big Mom. I think that, like, all the gas that people have for Kaido and Big Mom is purely based on the fact that today, everyone are scrubs. But the fucking Pirate King's crew, like, it's the fucking Pirate King's crew. Like, you know, how to say this? Rayleigh is a bigger legend than Kaido. By far. You think the Straw Hats knew who Kaido was before the time skip? No, they didn't. They all knew who Rayleigh was, right? Like, Rayleigh is a bigger legend than the current Yonko by a good margin. Okay, like, they've made... Just because we don't get to see their era in great detail and see everything they do, like, the fact that we're at a point where even ancient Rayleigh, like 80-year-old Rayleigh showing up, is enough to scare Blackbeard off, a Yonko in his prime right now, come on. Like, yeah, I think Rayleigh and Gaban in their primes were above Kaido and Big Mom. I don't think that's a weird take. I think even if you just read the whole Rocks era God Valley flashback, it's like, it's clear that Oda treats Rayleigh and Gaban with more respect than he does characters like Kaido and Big Mom when they're all written in the same time period, you know? So I don't think that's a weird take. All this does for me is basically confirm that Gaban is also right up there, you know? Yeah, I don't think it's, yeah, I really think that a lot of the gas for Kaido and Big Mom is just because they're the best people around right now, but it's like, yeah, because everyone else is fucking old and retired or dead. You know, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you can really compare Gaban's performance against Imu to Loki's, because Loki versus Imu was genuinely like a long battle. It was you can say, not like long like Luffy versus Katakuri long, but it was an extended battle. Imu couldn't just put down Loki, right? It's kind of clear that Imu, once he started trying, could basically, once he used a move or two, he could actually take down Gaban. I don't think you can really compare those two, and also just the scale of that battle was much more high level. Loki was actually clashing evenly with some of Imu's attacks and stuff like that, so it's not really the same. Yeah, Odin beat Kaido. I just don't get I don't get the what do you call? It's like we have points of comparison, you know? And everybody's like, well, Kaido got stronger and stuff since then. It's like, yeah, I'm sure he did get stronger. I'm sure we can assume that he got stronger, but I don't think there's anything in the series that implies that he's above the old guy, like the old legends, you know? And for me, I'll just say this. I'll say this. I remember I said before that I think that Zoro, end of story, would be able to take Imu down. If it's just a sword duel. So kind of like how Gaban was fighting Imu this chapter, which is just axe to glaive or axe to spear or whatever, right? If 80-year-old, like when Imu's not using any of his Maki or any of his like crazy hacks tricks or any of his special weapons or anything like that, if you make Imu just stand and fight with his glaive, then look, if 80-year-old Gaban can make Imu go huff and make Imu bleed a little bit, then yeah, I fucking think end of story Zoro, strongest swordsman in the world, definitely above Prime Rayleigh and Prime Gaban, right? Would beat Imu in a sword fight. That's not a weird thing to say. People ate me up for this take before, but I'm like, that's normal. Why would Zoro lose in a sword fight to this dude if this dude is not allowed to use Maki and not allowed to use any of his special weapons or special tricks or any of that, right? If you're restricting like 80% of what Imu can do, then yeah, I think Zoro would be able to beat him at the one thing that Zoro is supposed to do, which is swordsmanship, you know? Alright, continuing on. JP, thanks for the 10. I couldn't tell if the old bone comment by Gaban was him being old, or if that was the ability of the Bone Eater sword Imu was using being applied via that snake tendril. I took that as Gaban's bones being old. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Lars Mango, thanks for the 7. It's embarrassing that full power Luffy was outdone by an injured old man and deathbed Loki. Mickey Yonko makes Kaido look worse in retrospect. I just don't think Kaido is ever that strong. I legitimately... All of the gas... I just hate the reasoning for Kaido's strength, because it's all circular. It's all circular. It's never like... It's just... Like... It's... Kaido whooped a lot of characters who are really weak. That's ultimately all that happened, okay? And then when you ask people like, well, what does Kaido do against other strong characters? The only other example is against Big Mom. That's it, right? Who has the least hype out of any of the old gen top tiers, period, right? So it's just the Big Mom showing where Kaido didn't even win. It was just a stalemate, right? And then if you ask people like, well, what did Kaido do that's so impressive that suggests that he can beat other top tiers or like other really strong characters? It's like, well, he beat all these really weak characters. It's like, okay, but how does that equate to him beating a lot of the strong characters? It's like, Well, he beat the weak characters. Therefore, he can do that to the strong characters. Like, this is just so fucking backwards. It's just like Kaido's only feats are against a bunch of weak characters, but then when you try and challenge people as to like what did he do that's actually really impressive, it's like it just keeps going back to that, and it's just like I don't know what to say, you know? Maybe circular is the wrong word for the way it works, but it's like Kaido's strong if you look at the bubble that is like the Onigashima battle. That's it. But if you expand it to literally anybody, like anything outside of that, it's kind of like that's it. And then people pull out the title and it's like, well, this is just a reading comprehension thing because it's literally like Kaido is unironically established in the narrative. It's unironic. People joke about this, but it's unironically established that he is Rumor Man. He is not ever stated to be the world's strongest creature. It is stated that people believe he is the world's strongest creature, right? That's it. This is just what people think. All right, they're not counting fucking retired characters or characters that they don't know about, like Emu, or characters who have almost no showings, like Dragon and stuff like that, or fucking Shanks or whatever, right? It's literally just like, well, we think that this is the next strongest guy now that Whitebeard died. That's the story of Kaido. That's it. There's not that much more to it. Tom, thanks for the 2. Ripley is more of a workout than Shaki if you... I see what you're saying. That is well, it's probably true. Yeah. If we wanna go by that. Joyboy SGLS sent loot box for 1,000 jewels. Thank you. One Piece fan 74, thanks for the 10. Gaban is awesome. Zoro fans really need to brace for Zoro equals Sanji at best, or Sanji greater than Zoro. That probably wasn't always the plan, but post-time Skip-Oda really loves Sanji. I don't really know what to say. I think Sanji fans just set themselves up for disappointment in that sense, because I don't really know what to say about that. That's this is kind of just like I'm just gonna let Sanji fans feel happy about this, right? But I think it's extremely funny that your comment is that Zoro fans need to brace for, Sanji being greater than Zoro or something. I think it's almost sad to look at. Just never mind. I'm not gonna say anything. Let's just Sanji fans feel excited about this, right? I think that's good. Francisco Mas, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 46 months. Hi, Morge, what are your predictions for what's next? Doubt that Gaban actually dies. Probably won't even lose his arm. Also, I really wish this arc to end bittersweet for the crew, or at least for Luffy. I think this arc's ending in a good way. I think this arc's going to be one of the most empowering arcs in One Piece. If this arc was set to end really heavy and tragically, it would already have reached its conclusion, because Luffy's big defeat is it, right? Right now, everything is kind of framed around like, you guys need to get back up and get your shit together and do better. Not in the future, like right now. Like Zoro and Sanji have to do that right now. Luffy needs to do that right now, right? There's not any sort of like shortcut to this or whatever. Empty Mind, thanks for the 5. And as for my predictions for what's next, you can watch this Tuesday's video. I don't think Gaban actually dies here, because, I mean, the arm thing is, maybe he'll die by the end of the arc or something, but I think he's all good here for the moment. Empty Mind, thanks for the 5. Biggest BS Oda wrote was that the Roger Pirates versus the Whitebeard Pirates lasting 3 days. Also, how did the Roger Pirates not take out the Holy Knights? Yeah, that's true. Roger Pirates, Whitebeard Pirates, it's kind of insane. The Roger Pirates did take out the Holy Knights. I guess they just didn't kill them. It seems really hard to kill them. Because, I mean, Gaban chops up Sommers. Sommers is still alive. It's just, the regen is kind of ridiculous, Unless you're Loki. I think Loki's to date the only character that's just straight up overcome the regen. Hawkeye Fighter 8826, thanks a lot. Hey Morge, is it TCB scans? I didn't like Luffy's dialogue this chapter. Kind of bratty, and after Gabon pointed, made me think this whole arc he is so cocky. Um, yeah, I feel like I think I would have preferred Luffy taking it a little bit differently. Because it doesn't feel like he's processing what Gabon's saying, but maybe this is just the way that you need to motivate Luffy. So I don't know. Empty Mind. I think let's wait and see for the Viz scans. Empty Mind, thanks to the old gen upscale is insane. Roger greater than Loki. I mean, I think that there is a world where it's possible, because we never got this confirmation, right? It's entirely possible that Roger and Whitebeard and Garp all ended up surpassing Rox and Harold, you know? And they just reached another level. Because I think that would then follow. But as it stands right now, Loki's clear, like, it depends on where you think Roger and Whitebeard stack in comparison to Rox and Harold. I kind of just put them all in the same category, personally. Maybe we get some more details or elaboration as time goes on. I kind of just put them into the same tier and was just like, that's that. Because Loki is clearly above Harold. That's undeniable, and therefore also above Rox. If you think Rox and Whitebeard just got way stronger than Rox and Harold, then they could still potentially be above Loki. Endercraft 7393. No, but that doesn't make sense though. No, I don't think that's likely. Because Gabon himself makes it clear that Holy Knight Harold is above everyone in his view. Yeah, Gabon literally states that Holy Knight Harold is, he says nobody in the world could stop Holy Knight Harold, right? He essentially says that nobody could stop him in the world, he would destroy the world, right? That means that Gabon considers Holy Knight Harold above Whitebeard, which means that by statements, etc., Loki still is above them, you know? And again, it's just two things, right? It's silly to compare Loki and Gabon's performance in any way, because Loki is basically 5% health or something. It was established he would need months to get back to full health, so there's nowhere near Loki's true strength. And then, two, we already saw Loki in comparison to Gabon during the Holy Knight Harold fight, right? Loki's clearly portrayed as a lot stronger. And then, when Loki is at full health. And then, and this was Gabon when Gabon was actually close to his prime. And then three, Loki versus Emu was just on a much bigger scale than anything Gabon did. It was literally like Elbaf island size scale, right? I don't know what Roger would do against Emu's, like, Maki. Like, the big thing I think people are missing is that Emu's not really using most of the Maki stuff that he was using against Loki in these fights against Luffy and Gabon. Because from what we saw, his Maki can pretty much block anything if he actually uses it in that way. Kurokami Najimi says he only thought Harold couldn't be stopped because he didn't think there was a way to hurt him. That was my point about the regen. In reality, Whitebeard could hurt Harold. Yeah, but that's the point, which is that Holy Knight Harold, part of his ability is the regen, right? Gabon didn't believe anybody could stop that regen, including Whitebeard. Loki could stop that regen, hence Loki seems to scale above, you know? Tala says, Morge, Loki greater than Gabon for sure, but why do you keep mentioning Loki being injured? For Gabon, Loki comparisons, they're both injured. Because there's difference in degree of injury, right? Loki, again, established to be, like, I think this is just short memory, but if you reread the arc, Loki's established, like, 4 different times to be this close to death, like, on the verge of death. I think people might forget, but when they freed Loki, you know how they defeated him? When they freed Loki, Luffy beat him with a normal Gear 3 punch. That is the state that Loki was in, like, 30 minutes ago. So, it's not really a comparable sort of situation. Okay, now people are getting okay, first of all, Endercraft sent Goat for 1,000 jewels. TomTom sent 6-7 for 67 jewels. Random guy, thanks for the 2. Roger Pirate Upscale, Prime Raelian Gabon greater than Yonko. Yeah, I agree with that. I talked about that earlier. Empty Mind, thanks for the 5. Word, Emu becomes the Gorsei 2.0, shows up, tons of hype, but achieves nothing and gets sent back. Emu absolutely needs something, needs a death here. I don't know. I don't know if Emu needs to kill anybody. I mean, I think killing somebody would be good, but I think unlike the Gorsei came through and were really intimidating for a second, but didn't even defeat anyone, right? Emu has already, I think it might be easy to forget just because, like, Gabon had a good showing against him this chapter, but Emu has done so much, right? He showed up and immediately took out, like, straight up, actually, right? Who are the strongest characters on Elbaf, right? If you ask someone to make a top 5 strongest list of characters on Elbaf, right? It would be some combination of Luffy, Loki, Zoro, Sanji, and Gabon, right? Before this, if you asked anyone, that's what they would say. Emu shows up, and in the span of 10 minutes, or whatever, maybe 15, 20 minutes, defeats all of those characters decisively, low diff, one after another, right? Each of those characters got low diff. Some of them took a little bit longer, some were 0 diffs, whatever. But Emu went through and just wiped the board with everybody without much trouble, right? I don't know how much more he would need to do. I think Emu's been established here pretty concretely, you know? Julian Reed, thanks for the 5. Gabon charged and swung his axes. He's in the same overhead sledgehammer type position like Roger, Shanks, Zoro. You can see in God Valley and Onigashima. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So I guess this is the first time we've seen, like, cutting attacks launched with Conqueror's Haki. Because even Divine Departure doesn't cut. We saw Roger use Divine Departure on Odin. It doesn't cut Odin. It didn't seem like Divine Departure cut Kid as far as we could tell. So Gabon's the first person to do cutting attacks with Conqueror's Haki, so that's pretty cool. Like, how do I say this? Let me be very clear. Using Conqueror's Haki streaks, like just that sort of streaks to cut, you know? Edge Elder, thanks for 5. Even if what breaks the tree was the Haki from Gabon's axis, look at the third Haki beam, laser heats. Emu blocks, but still bleeds from it. Yeah, that's good shit. Tiptier Treviso, thanks for 2. People saying Gabon did better than Loki is stupid. Yeah, he didn't. He didn't, but he did really impressive. I think he clearly did better than Luffy. In comparison to Loki, I think the only point of comparison is basically, like, Gabon has it that he was able to cut Loki, like, deal damage to... Sorry. Gabon was able to draw blood from Emu while Emu was paying attention, right? Loki never did that. The flip side, though, is the actual battle between Emu and Loki goes on. Like, Loki holds out way longer than Gabon. That's number 1. That's the easiest point of comparison. And 2, Emu uses a lot more of his powers against Loki and to stop Loki's attacks than he does against Gabon. Eric, thanks for the 2. Roger matters a great deal. More stuff will come. Yeah, let's hope, man. Tiptier Treviso, thanks for the 2. Can Emu by himself beat the ancient weapons? I don't know. I mean, look, from what we've seen, Thorheim or Thunderheim or whatever, that attack is basically equal to the Lulusia Kingdom, the weapon that destroyed Lulusia Kingdom, if that is in fact Uranus, right? In fact, it's probably stronger because it has Haki on it. Emu could block that with Maki, so if he can basically block island scale attacks with Maki, I wouldn't be surprised if he can combat the ancient weapons. Rud Howe, thanks for the 10. Gabon expected Luffy to do better here because he beat Kaido / is a Yonko now. After all, Gabon was all like, now that Kaido is gone, I can visit Wano. Maybe Yonko aren't so weak as he's recently been assumed. I don't know why people... Okay, trying to use this to scale up Kaido is kind of just, I think, grasping at straws at this point, in my opinion. But the simpler thing I would say is that I don't know why people... Kaido had a whole empire in Wano. You know, he has a whole empire there, right? Even, like, put it this way. Let's say, like, Luffy and Arlong Park, right? Like, let's just... Who's stronger in Arlong Park, Luffy or Arlong? Luffy. Could Luffy have walked in and freed Nami's whole village by himself? No, he needed his crew to actually deal with everybody else. It's like reiterated a lot of times throughout the story. Like even when the Grand Fleet forms, it's outright explained to Luffy like no matter how strong, like you could be the strongest character in the world, but you can't deal with larger numbers, right? You can't deal with larger numbers. Now, for the record, I don't think that Old Gaban can beat Kaido. I don't think that Old Gaban can beat Kaido. I think straight up it's gonna be a old person issue, right? Gaban literally is, if you're fighting and you're literally talking as you fight about how your bones are rusted and tired and all of that shit, right? I don't think you're gonna hold out against Kaido, who's a fucking marathon man, right? I don't think Old Gaban could beat Kaido, but I don't take it ever as like going like just because a character doesn't think they can solo a Yonko's entire territory doesn't mean that the character definitively is like, "Oh, I'm weaker than that other character," you know? Cuz it's two different things. You know what I'm saying? I still think that Kaido would take Old Gaban. Magnus9450, thanks to the two. Gaban summoned a Haki Susanoo Mihawk fan sweating. Are they talking about the 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 praying mantis? Let me try and get through these a little faster. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Everything and nothing, 8664, thanks for the 5. Hater shit, I ain't saying that Sanji would not be as strong as Gaban, but I don't see how. He's never done a mid-range attack and lost all Haki clashes. I think for me, all I wish is that Oda gave Sanji some sort of Haki growth previously in Whole Cake or in Wano or something, because otherwise, like, the jump to get to Gaban's level, we talked about this last stream, like, whose Haki is better, Luffy's or Gaban's. I was conservative because we hadn't seen much of Gaban yet, so I was like, I think right now in his prime, or like, I think right now Luffy's Haki is probably better than old Gaban's. I don't know if I feel the same way after this chapter necessarily. I think it's you can debate different things or whatever, right? But for Sanji to go from 0 to 100, like it's I just wish Oda had done the steps for him. I'm gonna be okay with it because I think Sanji should get to that level, but I wish Oda had put more time into showing the progression of Sanji getting to that level, you know? Because, for example, even Zoro, just showing Zoro using black coating on his swords for the first time in Dressrosa, that was a huge moment. That's one of the highlight big moments of Dressrosa, Zoro actually just using basic black coating on his swords, and you get the big scene of him cutting up Pika. It's a memorable scene in Dressrosa. It's one of the most hype scenes for Zoro in the post-time skip, right? Not because Pika's so strong, but just because Oda finally showed what Zoro can do when he's using black coating, right? With Sanji, it's like not only have we never had a clear, definitive scene of him using black coating, like just think of all the Luffy training his armament Haki in Udon, right? To then finally getting advanced conquerors in Wano, right? To then even getting more proficient with it to like whatever the level Gaban is at, right? There's so many steps in terms of your armament coding, advanced armament coding, like he's done with Luffy and Zoro over the course of the New World. El Matador 8857, thanks for the 5. Imu took out 5 top tier characters in on other dozen chapters. We get it, Oda. Yeah, I think just because Old Gaban looked better than people expected against Imu doesn't mean that Imu is under delivered. Like last chapter, we were just saying, holy shit, Imu's unstoppable. Tiptier Treviso, thanks for 2. Kaido fans are the flat earthers of power scaling. It's actually a very, very good comparison. It's a phenomenal comparison because it's like at one point in history, no one had proven this, but it was kind of just broadly assumed, like people kind of guessed that the earth was flat. And then a million points of evidence basically came out that established very concretely that the earth is not flat. But there is some portion of people who still believe that initial assumption and are like, no, but what if it is just still flat? And it's like, no. Hawkeye Fighter 8826, thanks a lot. Since Haki laser is a thing now, Shanks Haki plus sword skill trumps Mihawk, right? I don't even want to get into that debate. I'm not doing that. Hello, hello. Testing, testing. My audio's, I think the audio's fine. Hit refresh. Hit refresh. Should be good. Refresh. Sorry, I think the audio's fine as far as I know. Um, JP, thanks for the 20. Yeah, there's a genuine chance that Kaido's among the weakest of Yonko tier characters. He got rumors of being the strongest because the old gen is gone and Shanks and Blackbeard were fresher Yonkos with less history. I mean, to me, that's like the pretty straightforward explanation. It's pretty straightforward explanation. I don't think I just don't think there's much more to it than that. Um, Kaido's legend, again, forget Roger and Whitebeard, etc. Kaido's legend in terms of his general stories that reached the world were never even as much as Rayleigh's. I think people forget that. Everybody knew Rayleigh. Everybody considered Rayleigh a top tier legend, right? Nobody, Kaido, Big Mom, the new group of Yonko, it's actually low key. People don't realize this. In the One Piece world, the Yonko are low key. It's kind of like more niche ball knowledge. Does that make sense? Like, does that make sense? It's everyone and their mother knew Michael Jordan. And then, in today's era, it's like, is Shea Gilgis Alexander a household name? No, we're in a different era now, right? It's like we don't really have that, The Yonko are kind of like that. It's a very different era, right? Now, the last big name of the old era, and keep in mind, everyone still considered him the strongest even when he was like 80 years old. Not saying he was still the strongest, right? He couldn't really use Conqueror's Haki, but the fact that everyone was still wanting to give the title to that dude, Whitebeard, as the strongest pirate on the sea, and then it's only after that dude, it just shows a lack of, it just shows that this was viewed as a much weaker era, right? That dude passed, and then it's like, okay, well then out of the remaining biggest pirates, Kaido's probably made the biggest name for himself, right? Biggest bounty. It's established that he has the most extensive history of battle compared to Big Mom and Shanks. That's it. It's not much more complicated than that. The other characters who might actually be stronger than him, like a Shanks, like a Dragon, like a Mihawk, they're not characters who do that much. They're not like the old era characters who were out there storming through the seas and stuff, I don't think Kaido's weaker than Big Mom, though, so I don't think he's the weakest of the Yonko tier characters. Thomas Davis 1340, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 38 months. This chapter reaffirms Roger top 1. My goat could never be washed. That's my Pirate King. I don't think it does that. I just don't think it does that. I think, again, like, the problem is that you can't use this to erase everything that we learned from the Holy Knight Herald fight, right? So it's like, from the Holy Knight Herald fight, it's basically confirmed that Gaban views Holy Knight Herald as above everybody in the world, including Whitebeard, right? Except Loki kind of supplants Holy Knight Herald, right? So maybe Oda will reveal some stuff, and then it'll be like, okay, maybe Roger and Whitebeard, maybe they really surpassed Rox and Herald by a long shot, and maybe we're still above Loki and everything. But again, from the Holy Knight Herald fight, it's pretty clearly established that Gaban views Holy Knight Herald above everybody else, and then Loki was the only one who could take out Holy Knight Herald. Vishal sent trophy cake for 1,000 jewels. Thank you very much. Julian Reed 6030, thanks for the 2. Zoro and Sanji will be equal just as Rayleigh and Gaban are. Their wings. I just don't know. Okay. Let's get the stream likes up to 100. I don't even think it's ever established that Rayleigh and Gaban are equals. I don't think that that's established either. Thomas Davis 1340, thanks for the 5. We like to think Garp and Whitebeard are equal to Rogers because that's what we're told, but Garp could never catch him and Whitebeard got his scars from him. I mean, but they fought each other equally and it was like a draw. Do you think Rogers like way stronger than Whitebeard or Garp? I don't know. If there is a gap, I personally think that Roger is a bit stronger than Garp because what do you call? I think if you look at Roger and Garp's fight versus Rocks, Oda favored Roger a bit more. Just a tiny bit more, but a bit more. So I wouldn't be surprised if Roger's supposed to be a little bit above Garp. It's true Garp could never catch him, for example. And then Roger, Whitebeard, I think, again, I would lean Roger or they're dead equal. I guess with both examples, Roger Garp or Roger Whitebeard, I view it as like a greater than or equal to situation. Either they're exactly equal or maybe Roger is slightly stronger. I don't know. JP, thanks for the 20. On the Holy Knight surviving, I left a comment on your last video that it seems like the Holy Knight's hearts are encased in Maki, as Maki converts between black flames and metal, not only with the 19 weapons, but those bullets that hit Zoro. That's really interesting. That's a really interesting idea. That's a very interesting... I actually fucking forgot about the metal situation. Aether GM, thanks for being a Pirate King team member for 40 months. No thoughts on One Piece at the moment, so I'll say I've reached chapter 228 of Usogui, and Madarame Baku is officially my favorite manga main character, the master of motion. It's like Batman with prep time, but good. Usogui, let me look that up again. I know that's been mentioned before. Usogui. What is this about? Gambler. Oh, this has been recommended before. I'll think about this. Kebs, Kebs MZ5DG, thanks for the 7. Sanji fans can low-key be as bad as Zoro stands during peak rooftop. Kind of embarrassing that Sanji greater than equal Zoro is even a real take after 1100 plus chapters. Yeah, I think it's just because, and it's also, I think the part of the problem is also it's just like, it's almost like goldfish memory type situation, because for about, I don't know, all of the post time skip, so hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chapters, right? It was kind of the reverse situation where arc after arc after arc, Oda was doing stuff to make Zoro look cool or have cool moments, and Oda pretty much never made Zoro look bad ever. And Oda kind of kept hype tooling Sanji over and over and kind of just kept making him look bad or whatever. I mean, just even fucking 2 arcs like fucking Wano or whatever, when Oda finally kind of reestablished and gave Sanji some power-ups and put him back into that Monster Trio sort of group, even then, it's like Luffy and Zoro are the ones getting Advanced Conquerors Haki, and Sanji's not, right? During that whole period of time, the Zoro fans were extremely insufferable and just giant dicks. They acted like the Monster Trio wasn't a thing. They acted like Jinbei was above Sanji. They acted like Zoro and like Zoro as strong as or whatever as Luffy or whatever, right? Roof piece, yada yada. It was really bad. And it makes you feel bad for Sanji fans, because it's like, this doesn't feel like Oda's intent. It feels like Oda's just, he's gonna give Sanji his catch-up moment at some point in time, yada yada, right? Because the Monster Trio is such an important part of the story for so long. But then finally, when we get to a point where Sanji, keep in mind, hasn't even caught up yet. He doesn't have Conqueror's Haki yet. So this hasn't even happened, the situation that Sanji fans are imagining. All that's happened is old, like, Gaban, the old gen Sanji parallel, is showing out, which is really fucking cool and impressive, right? But Sanji fans have now somehow spun that into, oh my god, Oda just gasses Sanji above all else, above Zoro. Get ready. End of story, Sanji above Zoro. It's like, did you all forget, like, the last... did you forget the pain that you've been through for the last, the pain and the mocking that you've been through for the last, 600 chapters before this? And then this moment is now basically like, oh my god, Oda is just clearly hyping Sanji way above Zoro. It's over. GG, Zoro fans. Get ready for... It's like, oh my god. It's just... It's hard to feel bad for a group of fans, like, eating shit for that long, when, like, the moment that... It's not even like the shoe's on the other foot, because it's not like anything's happened that's, like, actually making Sanji look better than Zoro. That's kind of the crazy thing, which is, like, they're now assuming the moment that something happens that now puts, like, some genuine hype into what end of story Sanji could look like, the moment there's a glimpse of that, it's like, oh my god, it's over. It's over. Oda's clearly just been positioning Sanji to be above Zoro this whole time, right? The last 600 chapters of the post-time skip don't even fucking remember that. Like, what? No. This moment, which, by the way, has nothing to do... It doesn't even compare Zoro and Sanji in any manner. It doesn't even compare Gaban and Rayleigh really in any manner, because Rayleigh's not here. It's just like... It's hard to feel sorry for that group of fans if it's like, wait, no, if you give them even a crumb of something, it's like, then they will take that and go, like, 50 yards further. It's like, what the fuck? I don't even know what to say. Julian Reed, thanks to the 2. Gaban confirmed Imu was on Joy Boy's crew at the end. Let me reread that. What did he say specifically? What does he say specifically? Thou art still the Pirate King's crew, is that what you think? Oh yeah, fuck. I could say the same to you, you know. Let me read the Viz translation. Let me read the Viz translation to make sure that's not an awkwardly translated line. Chala John sent 6-7, thank you. JP, thanks for the 5. Kaido's whole sob story is that he could never definitively beat Whitebeard's number 2, Odin. Yeah, that is actually a good point. Rayleigh and Gaban would definitely be uncertain for Kaido too. Yeah, true. Tiptio Treviso, thanks for the 2. If Maki is Imu's ace, then Maki flick greater than Imu's kick. Maki flick greater than Imu's kick. I don't necessarily think, like, every single application of Maki is above anything Imu does with his physical body. Like, for example, the little Omen, like, homing bombs that he launches and stuff like that are not a big deal, right? The little Omen bombs that he launches, it seems like Luffy can block him without much trouble, Jinbei can, like, you know what I mean? That doesn't seem like a big deal. If you're talking about the Maki flick more than Imu's kick, you're comparing Zoro and Sanji, what happened to both of them. I think that they got zero diffed with the same amount of difficulty, which is nothing. Musa.co, thanks for the 6. Oda's self-aware. He knows Luffy goofing around in serious fights gets annoying. Gaban holding him up was so satisfying. We need to poster up that panel. Ask and you shall receive. I'll note that for the future. Let's get the stream likes up for the... Oh, no, we got it at 100. Good shit. Vanilla Thunder sent W, thanks for the 10 jewels. The Lowman, thanks for the 5. What Gaban did this chapter seems to be the same as what Shanks pulled on Green Bull and Wano. Both seem to be long-range advanced Conqueror's Haki attacks. Yeah, it might be the same thing. At the same time, I don't know if Shanks' attack actually struck Green... Like, was it a physical force thing against Green Bull? I don't know. I feel like Divine Departure is a physical force that's from... Or, like, Galaxy Impact. I don't know. Vanilla Thunder sent GG for 10 jewels. Justin sent Goat Trophy for 1,000 jewels. Thank you. Vanilla Thunder sent Thumbs Up for 10 jewels. What's with all these jewels? Vanilla Thunder sent Marshmallow High for 100 jewels. I appreciate the jewels. I'll say that. I appreciate the jewels. Talha, thanks for the 2. Unlike Luffy, Gaban made Imu use a Maki shield. Yeah. And again, I would use that as a point of comparison. Against Loki, Imu had to use, like, very large-scale Maki shields. Zolden3410, thanks for the 10. Out of the legends at God Valley, Roger's the only one without a clear goal, yet his Haki rivals theirs. Maybe his base was just that high, and finding purpose later pushed him beyond what we've seen. So Haki is not purely about, like, goals, like I want to attain this or that. It's about the strength of your conviction in what matters to you. So goal, however you want to interpret it, But Roger's whole thing, like if you read in chapter 0, Roger's whole thing was like, I want to be the freest. The same as Luffy's, right? And Roger makes that clear in chapter 0. So it doesn't really matter if he was searching for a specific goal or not. It's the same reason that, Sanji's Conqueror's Haki doesn't really stem from his commitment to the All Blue or something. It's in his strength of will when it comes to his values and doing things his way, right? Zoro's Conqueror's Haki, a lot of it is driven from his ambition, but that's just one flavor of Conqueror's Haki. Whitebeard's was just, I care about my family. Shanks's Conqueror's Haki is just, I want to protect my friends, right? Roger and Luffy's are similar in that it's largely, I want to be the freest. Or I want to be freest, I want to be free, whatever. If you have a very strong conviction and will to be that, then that makes it different. Then that's the strength of your Haki. One Piece, One Life, thanks for the 5. Yo, Morge, ever thought about how Sanji's 2 powers, fire and Haki, are both tied to his character development and theme of acceptance, accepting his past and himself? That's a cool observation. I like that. 11 Tiptius, thanks for the 2. 1190, more fan toxicity from Zoro fans than Zoro's. Yeah, but that's because Zoro fans don't have that much to work with. When Zoro fans do get stuff to work with, they're just as toxic, if not more. Justin, thanks to the 2. Gabon is telling the Monster Trio and company to step up. Yeah, I saw your Pirate King post. Oh, also, your Voice of the People. Pirate King podcast submissions are open right now. Also, there's something fun that I'm going to share with you guys in 2 minutes here. Pirate King podcast submissions are open at the moment. For those of you who don't know, the Pirate King podcast is my once-a-month podcast. I'll be recording it this Wednesday. It's my once-a-month podcast. It's a podcast where all Pirate King tier members can submit any questions they like about One Piece, other anime, manga, movies, TV shows, real life, etc. And I have to answer every single question in great detail. The podcasts usually go about an hour and a half long. I have much more time to answer questions in depth there than I do on streams. If you want to support the channel, then definitely consider joining the Pirate King tier to listen to the podcast, and you get access to all previous Pirate King podcasts. Henchme987, thanks to the 2. Zoro and Sanji are both bums. Why the debate? Yeah, at the moment, they're both bums. I think this is turning into end of story type debate. The Loman 123, thanks for the 10. He sent the attack above Green Bull, and Green Bull felt the strength coming from it, like how when Shanks used Divine Departure, some people on Kid's crew fainted, even though the attack didn't hit them. Yeah, I guess you could interpret it like that, but it doesn't really physically damage him, So that's why is it the same as what Gabon does right here? I kind of feel like that's just Shanks releasing his Conqueror's Haki, kind of like how anybody releases their Conqueror's Haki, like the neutral Conqueror's Haki release or whatever, and that affected Green Bull. He's like, oh shit, right? Kind of like Joy Boy's Haki Knot, just releasing a lot of Conqueror's Haki. That's my thought. I feel like Divine Departure or Gabon's attack this chapter or Galaxy Impact, those seem more like attacks that launch Conqueror's Haki, so it feels a little different to me, but I think that it's just a little, up in the air. The Loman says, well, that's because the attack didn't hit them, but is it like destroying the ground around him or something? I don't know. One Piece, One Life, thanks for the 5. Also, just got posters of Shanks, Sanji, Marco, King, and Emu and put them on my wall as the new background for my videos. They're so dope. For those of you who don't know, right now we are doing our big summer sale. This happens once a summer, 1 month in the summer. We're doing our big summer sale at the moment. So we've got everything. All the posters. I'm glad you enjoyed the posters. All posters are currently buy 2, get 3 free. So all posters across all collections. So if you're interested in islands, characters, ships, anything, everything is buy 2, get 3 free. And we've got a new set of posters, obviously. King, Katakuri, Whitebeard, Marco, Kid. Yeah, we've got Kid. Yeah, all the character posters if you like these. We've got all of the island posters if you like these. Just all the posters are currently on major discount sale. This sale is only for August. This is the end of our summer sale. After this, it's September and no longer summer sale. So definitely go check this out. The question 89907 says, is it still a category 3 defeat after this chapter? Even more so. Even more so. I almost felt like I was getting ahead of myself previously. I felt, and Taptio, I see your comment about lore square. I'm going to get into that in a second. I almost felt like I was getting ahead of myself with that analysis that I dropped, but I was like, no, this feels different. This feels like Oda's going for a, category 3 defeat. This chapter, I elaborate on it in my chapter review, but this chapter hammers in every single thing that I was saying in that analysis video that I did of Luffy's progression throughout the story and what different types of defeats mean for him, right? Everything that I said there, Gaban basically breaks down for Luffy verbatim. And now we've basically got a spot where Luffy's actually being challenged as a character to live up to some shit, to live up to the destiny that's being placed on his shoulders, to live up to the burden of having to protect not just Elbaf, but his crew. We're finally getting a defeat that actually means some shit for Luffy. Like, it's not just like with Kaido, it was 5 times in a row. Bonk, wake up, haha, new power up. Bonk, wake up, haha, new power up. That rascally Kaido got me again, right? That happened like 5-6 times in a row, right? This time, that's not the case. Imu fucking humiliated Luffy, dug in on the pain that Luffy's experienced in the past, forced Luffy to relive some of that, and Gaban's basically breaking it down for him. He's like, you gonna let him do you like that? You gonna let him talk to you like that? You gonna let him treat you like this? You're not shit. You're not who you think you are. But we know what you're supposed to be. So get up, like prove it. Prove something, right? Luffy's not just goofing off. He's not just like waking up all happy and cheery after this, like, oh, this didn't mean shit to me. He's actually being affected by what Imu did to him, and Gaban's digging it in and being like, yeah, this should mean something to you. And Luffy's like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. Like, fuck this shit. I'm upset. I'm upset with myself. I'm gonna prove you wrong. This is great. This is exactly the type of setup I want for Luffy before Luffy gets another power-up. I did not enjoy it in Wano over and over again, Luffy getting knocked out and just automatically waking up with a new ability. I'm like, where's the writing? Where's the writing? Like, have him have to actually face himself in some way before he just gets another power-up. TomTom says, Morge missed my super, my bad. Let me catch you, TomTom. 1 second. Also, I have another tier list for Monday that I think is a really fun one. Would you have time this weekend to do it? If so, I will message you about it. TomTom, thanks for the 2. Oh my god. Sanji versus Oven and Whole Cake Island could have developed armament. Yeah. I mean, or my other thing is also, why not just show Sanji having at least black coating already? Like, why not just show him have black coating at some point? Hawkeye Fighter 8826. Frankie can upgrade Sunny from Fallen Big Wood Piece. Oh, that could be really cool. Because then that way, Frankie's... That's a really good idea. Sorry, as I mentioned earlier in stream, I am somewhat sick at the moment. I don't think Luffy's necessarily going to get a power-up next chapter. I think whatever power-up Luffy gets, assuming he gets one in Elbaf, it will be the last one of the arc. Zoro and Sanji are going to come first before we see anything with Luffy getting the run back on Imu. All right. Yeah, sorry guys. I'm somewhat sick at the moment. More to do a Hunter x Hunter Monday stream and catch up beforehand. There's just, I mean, this is a One Piece channel, so ultimately there's not as much interest in Hunter x Hunter. How are the chapters looking right now? I like the Frankie upgrading the Sunny from Fallen Big Wood Piece. I like that a lot. Usopp might get the last moment. I wouldn't be surprised if Usopp gets the second to last moment. It's very rare that Oda gives somebody the true last moment of the arc outside of Luffy. I think the only time I can think of it happening... Has that ever happened? I think in Punk Hazard, this is actually one of the most surprising situations. So Punk Hazard of all arcs, that was an arc where I think in Punk Hazard, Luffy beats Caesar, and then the last fight of the arc. Anyone know who gets the last fight of Punk Hazard? It's fucking Frankie, which is just bizarre. But Frankie, for some reason, gets to. I guess technically, if you view Usopp and Nami sniping Buffalo and Baby 5, maybe that's the last fight. But Frankie really was the fight, you know? Oh my god. Thank you, Thom Tom. I will message you about what it is right after. Yeah. Well, people are arguing Zoro Sanji stuff here. Unless Jarl wants to go too, Emu gonna just have Hadruden and Loki, and Usopp and the crew left to fight. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a DH Jarl. I would personally really enjoy that. Also, let's get Streamlabs up to 150 real quick. Let's get Streamlabs up to 150. In a few minutes, I'm gonna show you guys something that's pretty cool. Some of you guys got a little preview of this last stream, but I'm gonna debut it in full here on this stream. So it's gonna be something. It's something really fun that I think is gonna grow pretty fast in the community that a lot of people will enjoy. Jack XY9VI says, where would you rank Elbaf right now? Where would I rank Elbaf right now? I'm always hesitant to rank arcs before they end because there's multiple arcs. Like, there's a point in Egghead. For me, in Egghead, after the Kuma backstory, like, Oda just had an amazing run in Egghead between all of the Hachinosu raid, Sabo and the Reverie and everything, all of that stuff going down, into the finale with, the Buster Call happening, Kuma backstory, Saturn arriving, Luffy versus Kizaru, right? The Kuma backstory, and then all of the Gorosei arriving. That run was just amazing. And by the end of that run, I was close to being like, I think Egghead could be a top 5 arc for me in the series. I was ready to give Egghead, in my mind, a 10 out of 10. With the way the rest of the arc played out, I feel like I gotta have it at like a 9 or an 8.5 or something for myself. For me, Egghead or Whole Cake Island kind of contend for the best post-time skip arc. It's a little hard to rate them compared to each other because they both focus. Whole Cake is very Straw Hat crew focused, just half the crew, which I like. But would have loved, I've been waiting for an arc like Elbaf that focused on the whole crew. And then Egghead was good for all of the other reasons, that one of the best backstories, maybe the best backstory in One Piece, and was really good for outside world, big scale stuff, right? Side characters, with Elbaf right now, I'll say this. For me, with Elbaf right now, everything that's happening so far, the way the arc is shaping out, it is exactly how it's gonna be I think it's shaping up in the direction that it could be a 10 out of 10 arc for me. I could see this arc, depending on how things play out. Okay, I'll say this. There's 3 routes that I can kind of imagine Elbaf going, okay? Either Oda does, because Elbaf is hard to predict at the moment, right? Some people think that it's set to end in major defeat for the Strats. Some people feel like, I think it might even be the minority here, but some people, such as myself, think it's actually going to end in a sort of big victory for the Strats. I think there's going to be a big scenario for them to step up. Now, I'm good with Oda going either route, okay? If this is a moment for the Strats to really step up, like the way Gabon's been shitting on them and telling them that you guys need to be better, if you want to take the next step, now you need to take that next step. I love that sort of setup. I would love to end this arc with most of the Strats having gotten big moments, Zoro and Sanji becoming like advanced Conquerors Haki, freaking masters, Usopp getting some big scene, everybody helping against Emu, Loki in there too, and then to top it all off, Luffy getting a big upgrade that actually makes him worthy to be the next Pirate King or something like that, right? Preferably Conqueror's Haki related. I would love for Oda to go that route. That would be one of the coolest directions. It would feel like a very triumphant sort of rise back up from the depths of defeat sort of storyline. I would absolutely love that sort of route for Elbaf, okay? Would love that. Flip side, if Oda goes the route of despair, if this is a storyline where the Straw Hats are just everybody's gonna get fucked up, Elbaf tree fucking burns down or some shit, entire crew gets stomped, Luffy just learns a big brutal lesson, right? If Oda goes down that route, and this is just an absolute like Marineford or Sabaody-esque situation, and then the Straw Hats have to rise back up for the final war, I would like that route as well. I would love that route, right? Either of those two routes would be really cool. All right? I think either of those two routes would end Elbaf as a 10 out of 10 arc for me. All right? The one thing I would not, it's not I wouldn't enjoy, but it would just kind of not put Elbaf over the top for me, would be if Oda goes down the middle. And I feel like this is what Oda did in Whole Cake Island and in Egghead. Both arcs were kind of a situation where we didn't know, are the Straw Hats supposed to have like a triumphant victory? Like, it didn't feel like it made sense that they're going to just take down the entire Big Mom Pirates, but also they didn't get like totally crushed or defeated. It was, instead Oda kind of plays it down the middle in both Egghead and Whole Cake, where it's like, if Oda goes down the route of just a mixed bag, where it's like, okay, Imu beats up a lot of characters, then maybe there's some stalling, then Zoro and Sanji get a couple power-ups or whatever, but Luffy doesn't really get back up, and then there's just a time limit, and then Imu just leaves. For me, that's kind of an anticlimactic ending. There's no way for me to have Elbaf as a 10 out of 10 arc if it concludes like that, because those sort of endings just don't really fill me with very strong emotions. My two favorite storylines are the Water 7 Enies Lobby storyline, right? Which is that whole storyline is very, it takes the Straw Hats to the depths of defeat and then brings them back up with, you know, power-ups, feel good, camaraderie, everybody taking a big step forward, and they win against all odds, right? Love that. And then Sabaody and Marineford, those are my other favorite storylines. And those are the opposite, where Oda goes all in on really crushing our main characters and writing a tragic storyline, right? I love both of these storylines because Oda goes all in on really the sense of triumph and progression for the crew, right? Just a really fuck yeah sort of storyline. Or, oh my god, fuck. Like hard-hitting, heavy, heartbreaking sort of storyline, right? If Oda can do either of those two things, Elbaf will be a 10 out of 10 for me. If he plays it safe down the middle, where it's kind of like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, kind of like an Egghead Island ending, where it's like, okay, the Straw Hats don't really beat the Gorosei, but they kind of get out of there. You know, they don't really fail. They don't really, really win. It's just, you know, stuff happens, right? Or even Whole Cake. Whole Cake Luffy does ultimately beat Katakuri, but it's kind of a messy victory in itself, and Whole Cake in general is kind of like, is it a clean victory? What is it? Like, you know, it's hard to call. I can appreciate what Oda does with those arcs, and they're ultimately set up arcs for future storylines. But the endings don't fill me with, like, really strong emotion either way, you know? Imu can't get away with this more. Gaban lost his arm. Yeah. So, I personally feel like, depending on the trajectory Elbaf is on, either route that Oda goes with this, I could easily see me feeling like it's a 10 out of 10. It's just if he plays it kind of down the middle, like the messy middle, then I might come away from it feeling like, okay, good storyline, a lot of good shit in there, but not necessarily ever going to be one of my absolute top 3, 4 favorites, you know? I want to read some of Luffy's dialogue in the Viz here, just to get an idea of what he's kind of really saying necessarily. But yeah, hold on. All right, let me share this with you guys. So I think this is gonna be one of the coolest things that hits the One Piece community. Period. So if you're somebody that likes making a lot of One Piece content, maybe you're on Reddit, or maybe you're an aspiring YouTuber, content creator, maybe you like doing stuff on Twitter, and you just want to get your voice out there. So this is a really cool fan project that that this guy Max has been working on, and he and his team basically. Let me showcase this for you. So I showed this a little bit on Monday's stream. Most likely you're going to see other YouTubers and stuff promote it in different ways in the future. But I am the person that he's been sort of bouncing this off of as he's developed it to, to see what, just to get, I guess, I've been his, his user test dummy, I guess you could say, I've been his user feedback, and now we're at a point where it makes sense for you guys to be the user feedback. So I'm going to introduce it to you guys here. Here is how it works. So this is a site that is pretty much made for actually having a space to save all of the most interesting One Piece theories, mysteries, everything that the community comes up with. It's a place where you can kind of see, so how do I explain this? It's crowd, yeah. The idea is basically, hold on. I'm still familiarizing myself with the UI a little bit, but the idea is basically, let's say you have some of the biggest mysteries in One Piece, right? Like, what is the One Piece, or why did the Ancient Kingdom create the weapons, etc., right? You can create mysteries that then people fill out theories for, or you can just go and create theories, right? So one of the things that's common with stuff like Reddit is people will post stuff, and then it just goes away, right? It's fleeting, it's around for a few days or something like that, or maybe it's kind of just, a flash in the pan or something like that, right? This is a space where you can basically create a long-term sort of running list of theories that exist in the One Piece community, and it's all crowdsourced. And so if you've got an interesting idea, like let's say Emu's a parrot, you can submit that theory. And the cool thing is, if you go into it, right? So I think these are some of the theories that people submitted from last week, actually. If you go into it, so you can read a theory that somebody posted before. Or no, maybe this is just an example. This might just be an example. I don't know. I can't tell. I don't know. But you can read theories that people have posted before. Yeah. These are. Yeah. You can read theories that people have posted and basically go through and add evidence if you believe, or you can add evidence against if you feel like you disagree with this theory. And then over time, the various theories that are better or worse that people are upvoting or basically adding more evidence to or more evidence against keep getting pushed to the top of the pile. And what's cool is that basically then, if you see, like, if you want to click one of the main theories, like, what is the One Piece, right? So if you want to click on one of the main mysteries, like, what is the One Piece, then you can see the different competing theories that are in the race to determine, like, what is the One Piece. Does that make sense? So if you have a really good idea of what the One Piece is, then you can go in and start making theories for that. And then over time, as people come through and sift through your theories, they can upvote you, or I guess it's not really upvotes, they can rate how they view your theory, and then over time, if people really, really like what you've got, then your theory goes higher and higher. So that's the really cool thing about this, that this sort of stuff stays rather than something like Reddit, where, you post stuff and then it kind of drowns out. If you've got a really good theory or idea, you now have ownership over it. And then on top of that, the really cool thing is that if you're trying to really get started in terms of, content creation, or drive more visits to your YouTube page or to your Twitter profile or something like that, this is the best way to do it by far, because you can, like, let me make a little example theory. So the missing God's Night is the man marked by flames. Or let's do this. The man marked by flames is the last God's Night. Right? You got to do good titles and stuff like that. I would write a description here. So, for example, The man marked by flames was suggested by Shiryu to be a world government member. There is still a God's Knight who we haven't met. It's likely he's the one guarding the final road poneglyph. Okay, so you do a little description. You can add an image, basically like a thumbnail, to help it stand out more. Then you can write your entire theory, right? For the moment, I'm just going to copy and paste this. You can write your entire theory. I'll go back and edit this later. You can apply it to a question, right? So if there is an existing mystery for this already, the UI for this is really cool. It's kind of coming along. I think I would have to create a mystery for this, but let's say it doesn't apply to a mystery just yet. And if I publish, let's say I want to attach it to my YouTube channel, right? So I can go ahead and attach it to a theory that I have, which is, let me go ahead and do that. God's Knights, only 7 were. Or you can attach it to your Reddit or your X channel, and then just like that, you've got your theory. So this, in my opinion, is probably going to become over time the new version of the One Piece Reddit, at least as pertains to creating theories, because this is basically just a much better UI for it, and it's much more searchable. So I think it's gonna be really cool in a little bit, where maybe if I can create a mystery, let's do, who is the man marked by flames? So if I do that, then do I need to do context? Minimum 10 characters in the question. Yeah, so I guess we're good. Proposed mystery. Shit, and then let me see if I can even attach my theory to that mystery. Maybe I can't attach it to a mystery afterwards. I don't know. But you see the idea, right? You see the vision? Yeah, this is like a really exciting creation. So what I'm thinking is I kind of want to do this, and then this way everybody has ownership over their theories and everything. I kind of want to do this. I want to do a little bit of a live sort of run of this, where I'm thinking we could do, if you want to post your theory on this site, right? If you want to create a mystery or post theories and stuff on this site, then in a future stream, maybe in this next week, we can kind of go through, and then we as chat can basically kind of go through and determine whose theories do we like, dislike, stuff like that, and make it a little interactive. So I'm thinking that this could be a really fun thing for us to try, maybe Monday stream or maybe the following Monday stream. So it's something that, this is something I'm going to be promoting full on in a video soon, but I'm not, right now we're also trying to see what the kinks and stuff are. So I'm still unfamiliar with the UI completely, but I'm thinking that if people want to mess with this right now, or over the weekend, and basically, let me replace the pinned comment. Yeah, if people want to mess with this over the weekend, then in next week's stream, I can go through this, and we can all kind of, as a as a community, look at the various theories that you all have been posting, and then in real time we can kind of evaluate them, vote them up, vote them down, things like that. Is there... Okay, I tried to make an account, but I need to provide evidence beforehand. User says goated website would also work for all other mystery manga, Hunter x Hunter. So interestingly, this there was a different name for this initially. There was a different name for this initially, but it was One Piece themed, but he said that he wanted to expand it to other anime and manga. I think this could be really, really cool for a lot of communities down the line. So he's starting with One Piece because it's like the biggest, it's one of the biggest fandoms, right? Definitely in terms of being most active and everything like that. but it's something that can quickly expand to lots of other series. So Tiptio, what are the you had some issues with using it? This is good because I kind of want to understand a little bit of like what are the what are the holdups or what are things that kind of are kinks. I think it looks like he's updated the UI a little bit since then. This I know is new. This is kind of based off of the chapter predictions type of idea. So seeing, so let's say chapter, we're at 1190 now. I think this is in beta testing basically. Locks at no active round. The next one opens with the coming chapter. Stream mode. Okay. This is interesting. I don't know how the predictions one works yet. This wasn't around first, but he did text me. Oh wait, hold on. He sent me a text about this earlier today. I should read this. Let me see. Maybe we can make the predictions thing work. Before a new chapter comes out, you can create a prediction round, choose the chapter number, and set deadline for submissions. So I can create a prediction round? I might not be able, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this on this stream. Maybe next week's chapter predictions we'll do with this. I think next week's chapter yeah, you know what? Next week's chapter predictions we'll do with this tool. I think that'll be fun. Let's see how that works. Okay, yeah, let's test this with next week's chapter predictions. So, first, I couldn't make a theory, apparently need evidence. I didn't need that here, it looks like. But I know he's updated it since last week. So, here's what I would say. Next Friday's stream, we'll probably try using the predictions thing that we've got here. We'll do that for next Friday's stream. And then, in terms of evaluating theories, I do want to do a stream where I can just, because I know lots of you guys post like little short snippet theories and stuff in chat, but I do want to do a stream where we can just, where I can actually go through and just review and evaluate kind of what you guys have put out, and you guys can also judge each other's theories, and we can kind of see who comes away with the best theory that people vote on over the course of the stream. So let's do that for a stream next week. Let me ask him how the UI works exactly. Because I think it is a bit of a barrier if you have to establish certain pieces of evidence in it. Because I lean towards it being easiest if you can just do the write-up and everything like that, and then additional pieces of evidence are things that other people can put below for and against. So that's something to consider. But yeah, didn't need it last time you showed it off. Yeah, I think it was all good last time, but let me know. Yeah, let me know. I think try using it today or this weekend or something. Monday, give me feedback about how it worked. I can relay that to him. And then we're going to do a stream where I basically go through and evaluate all of the theories that you guys have put out there, and you guys can upvote things up or against or whatever. And if you get your theories out now, then eventually once I'm promoting it in video format to all the viewers, so like all the hundreds of thousands of viewers, at that point, you guys kind of get a leg up where you've already got some of your theories in there first, so you're kind of the first movers. So yeah, this is really cool. Strongly encourage you guys to go check it out, play around with it. This is just, quality testing, like user testing here. Whatever you guys find is convenient, not convenient, what would make it easier, just let me know. I can let him know. We can make changes in real time. Yeah. All right. Shadow57X7G sent Unk alert for 440 joules. Thank you. I appreciate the Unk alert. JP, thanks for the 20. The weapon Emu used this chapter and the Muramasa mentioned last chapter are references to Japanese history. But could it imply that one of these 19 kings came from Wano? Also, what kingdom did the Nerona dynasty ditch? I don't know. That's a really good question. That's a very, very good question. Because we know where some of these... So, like, okay, how do I say this? That's a really good question. What kingdom did the Nerona dynasty ditch? Because for a lot of these Celestial Dragon families, right? We probably don't... I wonder if one came from Drum Kingdom or something like that, right? Like, we learned later that the Don Quixote family were the original rulers of Dressrosa, right? The Riku family just popped up after them, which means that out of the kingdoms that we know today, a lot of them probably, or some of them were probably... It's only 20, right? But some of them were very likely to have originally been Celestial Dragon kingdoms, right? So the Nerona family is actually a great mystery. I wonder if we can figure that out. That's a theory you can post up here, for example. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the 19 kings came from Wano. That's interesting. Henchme987, thanks for 2. Did Lily eat the parrot fruit to make Emu a simp? Very possibly. That's a great theory. Hawkeye Fighter 8826, thanks a lot. I think Elbaf set up for the Straw Hat's defeat. I mean, the arc literally started with the party. This arc can be the perfect midpoint. Cut to the outside world. Drama unfolds until the Straw Hat's arrival is needed or prayed. Let me do a little poll. What do you guys think? If only one option is likely, no middle ground. Emu killed all the Neronas like Enel? I wouldn't be surprised. If only one option is available, what is more likely? More likely for Elbaf's ending. Complete defeat for Straw Hats. Victor. Oh, wait, what the fuck? Why is this freezing? God damn it. Why is this freezing now? Let me reload this shit. Alright, let me do the poll again, because it disappeared on me. Hold on. Okay. What is more likely for Elbaf's ending? If only one option is available, no middle ground. Complete defeat for Straw Hats. Victory. They drive Emu. I'll say they drive Emu out. I'm curious. I'm raging, trying to get pictures. I'm gonna break my laptop. Sent Corgi for 1,000 jewels. Thank you. Thank you, SyrupX. Appreciate the Corgi. People lean towards victory. People lean towards victory. Emu if driving himself out because of his stamina. Okay. Let me clarify. Okay, let me do it again, because I think people think I want to be more clear, right? Because I think people agree that Emu ultimately will leave Elbaf, right? Let's do this again. Let's run this again, but more clear. Complete defeat for Straw Hats. They beat up Emu before he leaves. Let's do that. Charatar, thanks for the 5. Devil fruits will disappear with Emu's defeat, as that is the last curse to be broken, so people are free of the sea, and Luffy can explore old world under the sea. I don't know if I just don't consider the devil fruits to really be a curse, because devil fruits, the way they're really described by Vegapunk is they're all people's dreams, right? Like, devil fruits are beautiful. They're the power of mankind's imagination. If only I could be this or do that, you know? This is closer. This is a nice even 50-50. This is a nice even 50-50. I think I like this a lot. Meek, good to see you. Thanks for the 5. What do you think is Gaban's outcome next chapter, and what do you think Luffy's going to do in response? I think Gaban might just be... I don't think he's going to die. I think the arm being cut off might be the most significant punishment that he faces for the moment. Beat Up might be pushing it. They stall him. Yeah, I guess I'm saying, like, if you gotta pick one. Like, if we're going the arc ends triumphantly, or the arc ends with devastating defeat, right? I'm trying to cut out the middle ground. So I'm saying, you gotta pick one. Either they beat Imu's ass, or he beats their ass. You gotta pick one. Not that the middle ground isn't an option. I'm just curious what... I'm saying ignore the middle ground option, right? What if you had to narrow it down to, like, just the two options of they beat Imu's ass, he beats their ass? What's more likely between those two? User BX57L1GB8C says, I was unable to create an account. It first said unable to send email. Then a user with this email already exists. Okay, noted. Difficulty creating accounts. Meek says, you missed the second half of my super... My bad. Hold on. Sorry. What do you think Luffy's going to do in response? I think Luffy is gonna... I don't know if Luffy can do anything in this moment. He himself is acknowledging he needs to heal in some way. I think there's going to need to be a mechanism for him healing. I low-key feel like the direction Oda might be heading towards is that Chopper's fruit, fully awakened, is going to be an automatic heal. I don't think I would like that, because to me it invalidates a lot of the purpose of Chopper becoming such a good doctor in the first place. But I wouldn't be surprised, is all I'm saying, if that's actually the route that Oda goes. I personally, well, you'll see in Tuesday's video. I don't think I think Imu gets to go home, and I think he remains a villain in the final war. But I think in the final war, it'll be Imu versus some other characters, not Imu versus Luffy. I think Luffy will be saved for Blackbeard come the time of the final war. Bizarre Bar Capice says, I mean, if Chopper gets healing powers, then that will assist in the stream, because finding a cure for all diseases is basically impossible. Yeah, it is, but at the same time, I'm just like, does it make his dream too easy? I don't know. Ender says Tuesday's video mentioned. Yeah. Akainu, aka Top One, says, more who do you think the man marked by flames is? I lean towards a God's Knight. Final God's Knight. Who do I think is going to be the one to take down Imu as in final blow then, Morge? I genuinely think that it'll be a... I don't know if it's going to be a punch. I think that Luffy will get a big Conqueror's Haki Awakening, similar to Joy Boy's Haki Knot, and it'll have the same effect as Joy Boy's Haki Knot had on the Gorosei. That's my feeling. Something along those lines. So maybe not literally a punch, but like that. I also kind of like that because it doesn't immediately... We know that Luffy, end of story, needs to basically go beyond... Because I feel like Blackbeard is going to be an even stronger villain than Imu. So I feel like Luffy will have to go even further beyond Imu. So I think if Luffy has that sort of crazy Conqueror's Haki sort of awakening, towards the end of the arc that sends Imu back, then I feel like if Oda goes that route, then it's Luffy still is going to be a little unrefined. I think he's going to actually, I don't think he's going to be just automatically the world's strongest character, but he's going to be in contention now as he heads into the final war. I remember after Wano ended, a lot of people felt like Luffy was in contention for world's strongest character. Like a lot of people had that. This was also before we saw Imu fight or do anything. It's easy to forget, but if you go back 2-3 years, right? Maybe more like 3-4 years, Imu being the strongest, or even how strong Imu is, was like a total question mark. A lot of people didn't even put him on lists, and a lot of people felt like maybe he can't even fight. We had no evidence of anything Imu related. We didn't even know the Gorosei could fucking fight till much, much, much later. So Imu is just like this unknown character. So a lot of people post Wano, if you looked at like top 5 rankings and stuff, it would have stuff like Shanks, Dragon, Luffy, Blackbeard, Akainu. Those would be like Mihawk, right? Like those would be kind of the way top 5 lists would kind of look around that time. I think after this arc, Luffy will genuinely be in contention for that, but I think he won't have his new Conqueror's Haki development down necessarily. When it's Pirate King podcast, that'll come out. I'm going to record it this Wednesday. It's going to be a little bit. Not really an ostrich, thanks for the 2. My Achilles tendonitis, my chapter prediction was right. Mr. Achilles tendonitis, my chapter prediction was right. It was, and you were shouted out in the chapter predictions winners, so watch out for tomorrow's chapter review. Dare Boppler, thanks for the 6. Joyboy got crucified and impaled with all 20 weapons, his version of Hour of Legends. That is why Imu tests Luffy by using one weapon after the other. Woo, that is a really, really cool idea. I like that quite a bit. An extended execution like that. That is a really cool idea. That's really, really cool. Great idea. Nick Dawson, thanks for the 5. Zoro and Sanji defeating enemies imbued by Imu will be the key to making Imu retreat. Maybe, but I also want to see them run it back against Imu. And I don't think at all at this point it's unreasonable to think that Zoro and Sanji should be able to go up against Imu to some degree. Because, put it this way, if, like, Zoro and Sanji, by the end of the story, should be stronger than Prime Rayleigh and Prime Gaban, right? Which means that in this arc, there is no reason by the end of this arc that Zoro and Sanji should not be on par, at least, with 80-year-old, way past his Prime Gaban, right? If they're not even, by the end of this arc, if they are not on the same level as 80-year-old Gaban, I don't know how the fuck they're gonna surpass Prime Rayleigh and Prime Gaban by like in 1 or 2 arcs. You know? It's just, there needs to be some progression that's really fast here. Chillax Rita says 99% of chats are just some dumb power scaling garbage, but every now and then we get a gem like that Hour of Legend comment. It is what it is. JP, thanks for the 5. Blackbeard with Emu's fruit, Omen boosting his crew so they aren't bums. Yeah, I think I'd feel sad seeing that, just because I just... With the Gods Knights and the Gorosei and stuff, I'm like, you know what? Let them be Omen boosted and contract boosted characters or whatever. Just because, I mean, it's reflective of how they're all pathetic celestial dragons, reliant on Imu for power. I'm cool with it, but the final villains for the Straw Hats in the story, I want them to mean something on their own, personally. I also think, to be honest, it's a mixed bag, because some of those Blackbeard pirates, like Van Augur, I don't know how the fuck Usopp's gonna beat Van Augur as is. If you're giving Van Augur Omen and boosts on top of that, or like regen, I'm just like, Usopp's fucked. So it's a weird spectrum where it's like some of the Blackbeard pirates, like let's say a Van Augur or Doc Q, or a Lafitte, I view them as likely favored right now in their hypothetical matchups by a good shot. like, Van Augur versus Usopp, Doc Q versus Chopper, Lafitte. If it's Lafitte versus Nami, if that's the way the matchup is, I kind of assume that those characters are stronger. But then other ones, it's like Shiryu's a joke compared to Zoro right now. There's not even really a clear number 3 character for Sanji to fight. They're all, especially when Sanji gets Advanced Conqueror's Haki, they're going to be a joke to him. How would we honestly react to a Scopper death? I think it depends on how Oda does the death scene. Because I like Scopper quite a bit as a character at this point. He's a great character. I don't feel like a deep emotional attachment to him. I'm just like, that dude's solid. I like that guy. Gaban's a great dude. But in a death chapter, like a death scene chapter, Oda can do a lot with the character. As long as he doesn't do a fake out. Laffy is 100% going to be fighting Brook. Yeah, maybe. I mean, the matchup just, it seems so right. Lafitte versus, oh man, Lafitte versus Brook would be really cool, honestly. Lafitte versus Brook. But then I'm just like, who does Nami fight then in the Blackbeard Pirates? Katarina Devon? To me, Katarina Devon strikes me as a Robin opponent just because I'm like, it feels like it lines up nicely in terms of how the abilities match up. But Oda usually has the woman fight Nami of the opposing crew. I guess Black Maria, but Nami and Ulti. I don't know. Lafitte versus Brook just feels like it's complicated because there's matchups that just seem really, really good on paper, like Lafitte versus Brook, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the matchup Oda's going to go with. Because remember, for the longest time, Sanji versus Sommers was something that was talked about quite a bit in this arc because it's like Sommers talks about love a lot. He's really mean to women. He's abusive to women. He talks about how love is pain, etc. His abilities are thorns. All of this seems to line up nicely with Sanji as an opponent because Sanji's very, very kind to women, right? He puts them on a pedestal. He's about love. He's like, I'm the warrior of love. His abilities fire, in contrast with Sommers' thorns, right? A lot of people felt like that's like a clear one-to-one matchup. Turns out Sommers is fighting Zoro. Similarly, like Kizaru, I think for a long time, a lot of people felt like Kizaru is an endgame Sanji opponent because it just on paper the matchup looks so cool because Sanji's whole thing is speed, not whole thing, but big part of Sanji's fighting style is speed. Kizaru's the fastest character, right? So two speedy characters. They both fight a lot with kicks. Yellow and yellow. It just felt like a good sort of cool matchup on paper to see. It doesn't seem like that's going to be Sanji's endgame matchup at this point in time. Maybe Oda still does it, but I just don't know if we're ever going to actually get Sanji versus Kizaru. So Brook versus Lafitte is one of those where it just seems so right. I mean, both extremely stealthy, both have canes, right? Um, both are a little macabre in their appearance. Um, Brook is a musician. Lafitte likes to tap dance. It just seems like a perfect fitting matchup on paper, but I don't know if that's what Oda's gonna actually go with. Yeah, Sanji versus Kizaru had potential for great fight choreography. Yeah, for sure. I think it would have been one of the coolest choreographed fights in One Piece. Akainu, aka Top 1. I don't know how you're including those huge question marks, but it's catching my attention. I thought Oda said we're gonna reach the island, the only pirate that only the Pirate King reached this year, and we're gonna see the man marked by flames. Do we still believe that? My personal feeling: how many chapters do we have left this year? Oda has consistently been kind of wrong with his chapter counts, or not chapter counts. I think he's pretty good at his chapter counts actually. Because his story actually moves at clear increments about 100 to 150 chapters, okay? 100 chapters, 50 chapters, 150 chapter increments, okay? But I think Oda's often wrong about how many chapters he can get out during the year. Because, I mean, this has been a brutal series of breaks. Chapter break, chapter break, chapter break. Like, it's just, I think it's way more breaks than usual. My prediction was that Elbaf will end at around the 1200 mark. I think give or take 5 chapters, right? I think I stand by that because I think that whatever conclusion that we're heading to, it's pretty close around the corner. Zoro and Sanji's fights together should take maybe somewhere between 2 to 4 chapters, right? We're at chapter 190, right? And so then whatever Oda wants to do with the whole Imu situation, if it's a team battle or if it's Imu mopping the floor with them, if it's Imu mopping the floor with them, it should take less than 10 chapters, like 5 chapters. If it's a team battle against Imu, then it's probably going to be similar to the Oars fight, which is about 10 chapters, right? Having Elbaf basically end at around chapter 1205 or something like that. So I think Oda thought that he would reach that by the end of this year, but I don't think it's likely at this point. And Oda year is like 1.5 to 2.5 years. Yeah, I think he Elbaf ends in chapter 1225, to be honest. If Elbaf goes that long, I mean, I could see it. I could see it being a 100 chapter arc. I could see Elbaf being 100 chapters. If it's meant to end in defeat, it'll end soon. You know, after Zoro and Sanji stuff. But again, like, even a full team battle against Imu, it shouldn't take that long. Especially because it'd be a situation where all the characters' storylines are concentrated into one place. Let me check how long the Oars fight was. To my recollection, it was about 10 chapters. The Oars fight from the time that the Straw Hats get back up. Yeah, so the fight starts at chapter 472. So that's when the Straw Hats get back up to. That's when the Straw Hats start fighting him the second round, right? Imu's already had a full round against the Straw Hats. So the second, like, if we say 10 chapters, where does that put us? Yeah, after 10 chapters, the Oars fight is over. The Oars fight takes about 8 chapters, actually. 8, 9 chapters. And then it's Luffy versus Moria. So I don't know, I think that's I wouldn't be surprised if we're heading for something similar, where like either way you spin, because I just don't think that there's too many plot threads left in Elbaf at this point, personally. They're just, I mean, Heaven Realm. If Oda wants to bring Heaven Realm into the equation, that could open the doors up to some more stuff. I don't know how many weeks are left in the year, but with Oda's breaks, I don't think he could do another 15 chapters, you know? Myron D. Grizz says, why do people care about Zoro versus Sanji so bad? Because Zoro and Sanji care about Zoro versus Sanji so bad, you know? The character, like, if Zoro's your favorite character or Sanji's your favorite character, and those are the second and third most popular characters, the characters themselves in story are obsessed with who's stronger between the two, right? So it's like Kind of be like, you know, if Luffy's always talking about the One Piece, I don't think it's weird if fans are also like talking about the One Piece, you know? Um, yeah. Heaven Realm mini arc after main Elbaf arc, maybe. Maybe Oda straight up forgot about Heaven Realm. Maybe that was just a fun idea of like what's above the clouds. Okay. For the sake of my health, I'm gonna go ahead and call the stream here. I'm really loving, really loving. Oh man. Oh, the Lowman, thanks for the 5. It's crazy to think how Kizaru was clashing of Haki on the level we saw this chapter. Yeah, yeah. Charitar, thanks for the 2. Egghead would have been our Saboti if it happened. Yeah, if it had gone that way. Better Call Saul, did you finish? I did. I have a ton of thoughts. I think I guess we're at the end of the stream. I can talk about it a little bit. But I also have some like hot takes. So because my voice is no longer the best at this point in time, for those of you who don't know, I've got a bit of a cold or something. I've been sick since yesterday. I'm just souped up on Dayquil at the moment to get through the stream. But yeah, speaking is slowly draining me. So I did finish Better Call Saul. My immediate take is I think Better Call Saul for me, after finishing it, I think I might rate it as the best show that I've seen. There's shows that I haven't seen, like The Wire, you know? But out of the shows that I've seen, I think I might rate it as the best show I've seen in terms of how much I respect the show. A lot of it was down to the final season. Because by the end of season 5, I still had, like, Breaking Bad and The Sopranos above it. By the end of season 6, it's just like the 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 depths that he went to, that Vince Gilligan went to with that show, it's wild. Like that last stretch of black and white episodes, it really leaves an imprint in your brain. And everything before that is just crazy. So intense, as intense as Breaking Bad ever was, like on par with. And then the finale was like the way everything plays out. The black and white stretch is kind of like the stuff that pushes it over the top. It's not my favorite show, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be inclined to rewatch Better Call Saul. It's complicated. I don't love the resolution. I feel like the characters get off too easy. I disagree with a lot of people's takes on the main characters, Jimmy and Kim, but I still respect the direction the show went. So I'm separating my personal thoughts with what the show is trying to do. Those are my broad thoughts. I think some of my takes about Jimmy and Kim, from what I've seen, because after I finish the show, I want to see what other people are saying about it, right? Some of my takes and my opinions on Jimmy and Kim are a lot harsher than other people's. I do not have the energy in me right now to rant about it. So all I'll say is I respect the direction the show attempted to go with what it's trying to say with Jimmy and Kim's characters. I think that it went past the line in certain ways that I can no longer view the characters in a certain light that the show wants me to view them. But I still ultimately respect how the show went about doing everything in a grander sense. Nothing is perfect. Again, my takes on Jimmy and Kim are harsher. It's on the harsher end in terms of how people view them, for sure. Yeah, but just as a like from start to finish, what it does with all of these characters and its ideas and the plot, it's just so carefully thought out. Breaking Bad wasn't this carefully thought out as part of the thing. The whatever you want to say the thing is, right? I mean, they've talked at length about how they would come up with plots as the seasons went and such. Better Call Saul feels very meticulously crafted. It's like every character's end. I don't know if this is true or not. I have to see it, but this is what it feels like. I'd have to see interviews and stuff. It feels like every character's end was figured out far in advance, and you can see that trajectory, right? Maybe it wasn't planned perfectly. I think part of being a prequel allows for clearer planning because you have less wiggle room because some of the ending points are already planned for you. And just, I should have known just from the fact that from the very beginning of the show, we're getting flash forwards to, Saul many years in the future, which means that there has to be a clear idea of what happens in the in-between. So, yeah, I just, it's just a phenomenally planned out show, phenomenally crafted. I respect the hell out of it. I just don't know if I'd ever rewatch it. I don't know if I'd rewatch it. It's tricky. It's not, it doesn't feel like, I don't know. Tio says Jimmy got 84 years in prison. It's not that easy. My issue is more so how it attempts to, it's not the actual punishments of the characters. It's the sort of, there's a positive light that is like gently shined on them by the end of the series, in a sense. I don't think they deserved that light. I don't think they deserved it. I think they're past the point of whatever. I think by the time they were doing the stuff to Howard, I was like, I will forever hate these characters, and this is who these characters are. Normal, like, to me, redeemable characters do not get off on the pain and humiliation of an innocent person after spending God knows how much time, effort, and money just trying to destroy his life, his reputation, and all of his close relationships. I'm just like, no. For me, from this point on, if they'd shown immediate, like, from what happened there, I was like, there's a small window where I can view redemption in my eye, like, them understanding what they've done. And after the funeral, that window was kind of shut for me. Or the door was kind of shut for me. After Howard's funeral and the manner in which they approached that, I was just like, it's done. There's nothing from here on that the show can do to change my opinion of these characters at who they are at their fundamental core. Because the fact will never change that inside, they do legitimately enjoy causing pain and humiliation to an innocent person. Like, they do, that's a fact about those characters. That fact can never change, right? That's something that they simply are, right? They can change their actions, they can realize that they deserve justice for it, but I've seen that this trait exists, that at their core, they are sadists, right? Once that is established, you don't really change that part of you just change how it manifests, or you keep that in check or something like that. But now I've understood that Jimmy and Kim, at their core, are sadistic pieces of shit. I think the show doesn't do enough to, I think it can't do anything to change that by the end, because it's already had that scene and it's had that window, But I respect what it tries to say about change overall, yada yada. I know that some people that might rub the wrong way, and there's a lot of counter arguments. I just don't have the mental bandwidth or voice to deal with that right now. So save it all for Monday's stream. But again, I'm not trying to say the show is bad or that Jimmy and Kim are bad characters. I'm just saying why I will always hate them. Jaquan1254, thanks for the 2. Lalo better than Gus. This will be my last comment, and your Veen. Lalo better than Gus. I was loving Lalo more than Gus over the course of Better Call Saul. But then Gus does Gus things by the end, and it's just like, damn, this is why I love Gus too. Apples and oranges, 2 phenomenal villains. I think Gus will stand out to me as a bit more of a... I think in the grand scheme of villains that I've seen, Gus Fring occupies a bit more of a unique space in that I haven't seen another... Sorry, my fiance's walking by the window. I'm probably gonna wrap stream in a second. Yeah, I haven't seen another, there's just no villain quite like Gus that I've seen in other movies and TV shows. I think I've seen shades of Lalo, but Lalo is still very unique, and the character's performance and charisma is top tier. Hey, baby, give me 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Yeah. Hold on. Let me just close this. All right. Saptia says, is Jimmy and Kim rant the new law rant segment? No, because I don't even hate Jimmy and Kim. It's complicated. Like, I do hate... I know I said I hate Jimmy and Kim. I do hate them, but I can really like them as characters. It's hard to... You know, like, you can hate a character, but still really like the concept of the character. I really like the concept of the characters. I don't fully agree with... To me, it's like when you're writing... and I know there's another super to catch. To me, when you're writing very morally gray characters, but there's a certain... You ultimately have an intention as to how you want viewers to see those characters by the end. It's always going to be somewhat tricky because viewers have different senses of morality and how they judge other people. So when you're trying to toe that line as a writer, right? You might feel like you towed the line perfectly, and a lot of viewers might agree with you. And then some viewers might feel like, no, once you wrote this, then from my perspective, this character is forever this. And that aspect of them is fundamentally not ever something that is gonna really change in my mind, no matter how much you tell me that I shouldn't view them like that anymore, because I've already seen that, you know? So it's kind of like, it's just inherently part of the difficulty of writing those type of characters. So it's not necessarily about right and wrong, but you're never going to be able to tell me that the way that I view Jimmy and Kim is wrong, because I think I probably just judge people in a different way than other people, if that makes sense. So not everyone's moralities, etc., are going to align, or how we view other humans in general, yada yada. That's part of the trickiness with it. You know, like, if I'm not saying that from my point of view, once certain scenes were written, it was just like, okay, well, now there are certain character arcs that can never be actually earned by this character. Does that mean that my view is absolutely correct? Obviously not. But that's how I'm always going to view it. It's also what will probably prevent me from really wanting to watch Better Call Saul again from the beginning, because of how I fundamentally view the two characters from here on. But at the same time, like, the show is so damn good. And what's funny is that, like, the final season is by far the most intense, and it's maybe the most intense season of television that I've seen, which I didn't think I'd say after Breaking Bad season 4. And I really think it reaches its peak with those final seasons of 5 and really 6, right? But looking back on it, it's those first few seasons of Better Call Saul where it's just like, it really is just Jimmy as a lawyer doing, like, putting a case together for Sandpiper, or like those little things, right? I'm like, I can't believe, like, that feels like a golden era that I look back at very fondly. It's weird. But I didn't appreciate it at the time. At the time I was, but now I'm like, if I were to rewatch, I would really enjoy rewatching that, you know? It's kind of similar to, like, with The Sopranos. When I was watching The Sopranos, initially, like, I remember a lot of people were like, oh, season 2's the best. I got through season 2, I was like, is that the best? And then in later seasons, like 4 and 5 and, yeah, like 4 and 5, I was like, no, these are the best seasons. But then after finishing the full Sopranos, I was like, now looking back on it, I'm like, if I were to rewatch, like, if I were just to tune in and rewatch some episodes of The Sopranos, season 2 is where, like, it feels warm and fuzzy in a way, and I'm just like, that's where things were just right, you know? I don't know if it's the best season. Does that make sense? It's just like the comfort food sort of period. So yeah. Yorveen, greetings from Germany. Feel like giving something back, to be honest. It's been some time since I watched your videos. Time to catch up. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Yorveen. I really appreciate it. Thank you from Germany. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for the support, and thank you for watching the videos. Um, Powerful Analyst says Morge take into account Jimmy's in full grieving process through seasons 4 through 6. That's why he goes off the wrong end. I just don't think that any, like, we can argue this till to death, and maybe we will in a different stream. I'm just sharing the things that I feel, and then you can poke at it in another stream. I genuinely don't have the energy right now to talk about it. Um, yeah, the Richie era is the best. Yeah. Um, yeah. My favorite episode is the executive game episode. I love that episode too. There's just something really juicy about seeing everything play out over the course of that. Yeah, I think okay, I'm gonna wrap stream here because I do gotta go. Um I think right now for me my three favorite shows are, in no particular order, Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, and The Sopranos. In terms of rewatchability, for me The Sopranos is number one. In terms of like what would I just sit down and watch from start to finish, or just watch an episode of and just enjoy. Because The Sopranos, it's weird to say, because my fiance always says like, "Baby, that's like such a dark show. You like this really dark show." Whenever she's watched me watching it, The Sopranos to me, it feels like a really light, fun world, if that makes sense, in comparison to Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Just because like The Sopranos always mixes in like the light and the dark. Like I mentioned this before, but like you can have an episode where they fucking kill one of the main character, like they fucking off one of the main characters, and it's like, oh my god, that was like crushing or whatever. And then the next episode, it's like some random uh funny bullshit about like Chris and Polly arguing over who's gonna pay for dinner for the entire episode or something. Like it always it's a fun ride all the way through, and you can drop in at any point, or like the fucking Pine Barrens or something like that. Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, fucking hilarious shows, but it's always like comedy being used to punctuate and kind of soften the very, very dark and depressing spiral of events that are happening. I think that's the thing. The Sopranos, it's like it's all just like the tide moving back and forth, whereas Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad are very much a deep descent. And yeah, The Sopranos does have a gradual descent for Tony's character, and things get darker in later seasons, but it's also episodic television at the end of the day, so it's not quite as intense every step of the way personally. But yeah, yeah. I think Better Call Saul might be the best overall show, like once I take the entirety of what they did from start to finish into account and how they structured it. It's kind of unfair because The Sopranos can't have that because it was originally planned to just be one season, and they just don't have like as fully planned of a vision for what the entire story is, just a different era of television. So I'd say episode to episode, Sopranos is probably my favorite show, and I probably respect in terms of episodic storytelling Sopranos the most. Best creation overall might be Better Call Saul, but at the same time, it's maybe the one that I'm least inclined to rewatch. It will just always carry like a heavy weight in my head, and I'll just respect it. And I will maybe rewatch some parts of it, but yeah, I just think the lowest rewatchability. And then Breaking Bad has strengths of both, I guess, in that regard. I think Breaking Bad might remain my favorite show because of nostalgia. I don't know. Anyway, all right, that's it. Powerful Analyst says, I don't know, Soprano season 3 onwards gets really messed up. I think post I get what you're saying, but it's never like they can be really messed up stuff, and then it's like a whole episode of like just AJ and AJ's dumb shenanigans. And it's just like, it is what it is. Whereas with Better Call Saul season 6, every single fucking episode after it passed a certain point was just dark and depressing and intense and sad. Every single episode, Season 6 of The Sopranos, some episodes, nothing fucking happened, or it'd be some random shit like Chris's fucking movie got made, and we're all watching Chris's dumbass movie for the episode or something. And maybe there's some dark stuff that happens over the course of the episode, but it's like, it's more episodic, so it's more in and out in terms of how dark it gets. I don't know. All right, everybody. I'm gonna hop off here. I already went over the time I promised, so yeah. But thank you all for tuning in, and yeah, with